to run a wind load for a specific project using Catalyst. First, select the relevant project from the project list and navigate to the Dimensions tab. On the Dimensions tab, you will be presented with a generic duo-pitch building. Work through this screen, updating the fields to suit the building geometry relating to the project. And the 3D image will update in line with this. By turning on the Orientation Known tab, a small image will appear at the top left of the 3D image screen. When the orientation is updated, the building in this image will update to show the entered building orientation. Enter the building length and width, and update the number of frames of the building if the number of portals is more than the default 1 frame. Roof and wall geometry should be entered to suit the project's specific building geometry. Select the appropriate roof type and enter the roof pitch. Enter the apex height. B plus H values for the roof and wall should be entered as the total of the element length, plus the element spacing. For example, if roof purlins are 6 meter double span at 1 meter centers, the roof B plus H would equal 13. Loaded area for the roof and walls should be entered as the element length multiplied by the element spacing. For example, if roof purlins are 6 meter double span at 1 meter centers, the loading area would equal 12. If the project includes parapets, these are entered in the parapet fields. Parapet height is entered from the eaves or verge to the top of parapet. The parapet from finished floor level is measured from ground level to the top of the parapet. Once a parapet height from finished floor level is entered, the model will update to show the parapets. The sidewall and gable return corners toggles can be used to turn the return corners on and off as needed. To consider wind funneling checks between buildings in close proximity, enter gaps between each faces in the wind funneling section. Once happy with the entries, press Save. If further changes are required, these can be made and then again saved. To revert to last saved inputs, press Reset. Then move on to the Site Details page. On the Site Details page, you can enter a site name to define the site location. Select the relevant country from the drop-down. There are then a number of ways to enter site locations. Firstly, you can enter a site postcode. From this, the OS reference latitude and longitude will update. This works in reverse for the other fields. For example, if we update the OS reference, the postcode will update. Another way to set the site location is to move around and click to move the map pin. Again, all the site details will update to suit. Once happy with the site location, use the Save button. At this point, you are able to run the site terrain analysis. Once the site terrain analysis is populated, you will see terrain data, including distances to town and sea, and obstruction spacings and heights. Use the tab functions to manually overwrite the terrain categories or place the site on town boundary. The button at the bottom of the screen can be used to remove obstructions from all sectors. Alternatively, you can edit individual values in the Input tab for specific sectors. Once all required changes have been made, you can save the changes using the Save button. To reset values to default, use the Analysis button to rerun the analysis. Next, navigate to the Wind Loads tab and select wind pressures. The Site Wind Terrain Analysis, which was completed on the Site page, will be auto-populated here. If you already know the peak velocity pressure and size effect factor, manual pressures can be turned on. From this, you can enter the known values for the roof, sidewalls, gables, and parapets. Values can be entered for individual sectors, or the Change All Values fields can be used to update all sectors. If you have completed the Site Dimensions and Detail page, you can then view the calculated wind pressure values for the roof, sidewalls, gables, and parapets. If the Ignore Orography toggle is turned on, wind loads are calculated using the altitude method. To consider orography, turn the toggle to the off position. Next, navigate to the external coefficients page, where the code-derived values for the external pressure coefficients can be seen. There is opportunity at this point to switch the Eurocode NAD. This will not update your defaults, but will update the NAD for calculations run in this particular project. To modify the CPE and CS values, you can use the toggles and hit Save, which will make the fields editable. Press Save at the bottom of the table. Once happy with the external coefficients values, you can move to the internal coefficients page. The default structure on the internal coefficients page is an enclosed building, and default wind pressure zone is roof. To populate internal pressure coefficients, these can either be entered manually using the fields, or alternatively, the Presets button can be used. To use the presets, select the blue preset button, select the appropriate wall type and associated pressure coefficients. These can then be either applied to the singular face originally selected, or use the Apply All button to apply to all faces. Once applied, press Save to confirm. If the building in consideration has a dominant opening, use the drop-down to change the type of structure to dominant opening. Again, the CPIs can either be entered manually or use the Preset button to apply presets. In the Preset screen, select the appropriate wind zone for the current face based on location of the dominant opening and the appropriate area ratio. Once you have confirmed the internal pressure coefficients, you can move to the Overall Applied Wind Loads page. On the Overall Applied Wind Loads page, you can see the overall applied wind loads negative and positive for the roof, walls and parapets, based on the site location. To carry out a stepped wind load, use the Stepped Wind Load button. In LA, enter the zone width of the higher wind load. In PA, enter the load of the higher wind load. In LB, enter the remainder of the bay width in consideration. In PB, enter the lower wind load. For example, if calculating a stepped wind load from Zone F to Zone G, we would enter PA as Zone F and PB as Zone G. Once the values are calculated, the stepped load will appear in the top table and can be saved. Stepped wind loads will be available in the preset Wind Loads in the Calculation screens.